Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Upcoming crowdfunding games for next week. We've covered a lot already. This is sort of the in-between week, if you will. This is sort of the surprise week. Last week was a little bit of a lull. Apart from Skyrim, there really wasn't a whole lot else out there. We've seen some big ones that are coming to a close. I mean, Too Many Bones. We've got Senjutsu coming to a close as well. We've got Lords of Ragnarok from Awakened Realms. 1 to 4 players, spiritual successor to Lords of Hellas strategic game, where you are taking your asymmetric hero and your army trying to conquer, trying to battle monsters, trying to achieve endpoint victory conditions, or trigger Ragnarok. Check it out if you're interested. As you've heard me say before, core pledge gets you the stretch goals. If you're backing it, you're going to save money if you pick it up compared to retail. So from a value standpoint, there you go. Now, let's get on to what is big and trending of the upcoming week that you need to know about. And let's be, again, this is a sleeper week. This is a surprising week that's going to surprise a lot of people. Surprising. Surprise? How many more times can I say surprise in the same video? Surprise! Just kidding. Weather Machine launching on the 11th. If you didn't hear me in my 10 games that you should know about in November, this was, basically number 1 or number 2, essentially. This is a heavy weather-based, thematically incorporating, robots utilizing, resource gathering, gears within gears, literal and metaphorical Euro worker placement style game. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of iconography. It is going to probably run you triple digits. You're going to have to be willing to learn on a heavy learning curve. This is the next game from the On Mars situation. If you liked that style of heaviness, this is your next game that you should be checking out, period. I say that as someone who has absolutely no interest in this. I just think it's a beautiful looking game, and I know if it ended up on my shelves, it would collect more dust than half of my Arcadia Quest collection. So I have no interest in it from that standpoint, but it is going to be making waves. You can argue that this may be the second biggest Euro game of the year to launch, behind maybe Darwin's Journey, and then even then you could maybe say, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if they do Darwin's Journey level of stuff. Now again, okay, maybe we'll throw in Voidfall as well. That was not your typical Euro worker placement style game, so the committee has excluded that from the competition, the committee being me, the one member. So that's what you need to know. This is an absolutely fantastically beautifully looking game, but is it going to be for you, and can you actually get a game like this played? Just like you see me say it with the dungeon crawlers and the campaign style games, is can you commit to a 3 to 4 hour worker placement style game that's going to cost you $150 shipped? Can you get your money's worth? I don't know. I can't, but maybe you can. So check it out when it launches on the 11th from Eagle Griffin Games. The other big one that I didn't realize was actually that big is Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory, where you have these 3 different classes that are going to be going head to head and trying to reign supreme. I found the Kickstarter preview link the other day. The preview link, you know what I mean, like the pre-launch page link, that had 3,000 people already. I thought this game was going to be sort of small. I actually was in contact with them, and then I looked into it and I said, whoa, this is not my style of game. But if you are looking for something else in the Euro style game, but you're looking for something maybe like as worker placement-ish or as heavier as Weather Machine, well, you need to maybe check this one out instead. This one is more of the asymmetric in the lines of the political and the socioeconomic and the economical in the first place style of things. You have the working class, you have the middle class, and you have the capitalists all going head to head trying to achieve their objectives. Now, this is a very interesting concept because this game is heavily rooted and based on real life concepts and trying to incorporate them, because you also have, as the fourth element of things, the state itself trying to balance things out. It even goes as far to say that they're basing it off of heavy political stylings and themes, including things like neoliberalism, social democracy, nationalism, as well as globalism. Terms are hard to define in general, and now we're going to be throwing around them in a game, right? Doesn't that get you wound up? You got to get the flair, woo, going on from that side of things, if you get that reference at all. Most of you probably won't, but that's okay. For the few of you that got the Mox reference or the baby, you'll get that one too. Okay. Anyway, Hegemony. I have no idea. Asymmetric, econ game, political game, social game, but not in the social way that you're kind of used to. So it's going to be a really interesting test. And the question I guess I would put it up against is there going to be a similar group that's looking at Hegemony that's also looking at Weather Machine, right? And so could they potentially be hurting themselves by going up against a game that influences or has such a similar core base? And maybe you're going to look at me and say, Chris, these games are nothing alike, and the people who are going to be interested in one aren't going to be interested in another. But it's a heavier style game, especially with these heavier themes, and I have to think that there's some overlap with that. I could be wrong, but I usually am. But that's besides the point. Don't point that out in the comment section. It's variable player powers, it's hand action management, it's asymmetric rolls. I mean, that's what you're getting into from this. And how much do you like that style of things? So it's going to be a really interesting test of the market as well as a price point. Can you price it right for something that is of this style as well? So it'll be interesting to see when that launches on the 9th. The next big one for me is Star Fox, the board game. No, sorry, Starfighters Rapid Fire from Alley Cat Games. This one reminds me if Dice Throne and Star Fox, the old Nintendo game, had a baby. Because you are dice rolling tactical real-time combat where you can go 1 versus 1, you can go free for all, you can go for teams. It really looks like something unique. As someone who really digs real-time with the recent introduction into the Hall of Fame of Liege of Games of Bullet, because that's all I ever say is good things about it, this one really intrigues me. Now, there's hardly any information on Board Game Geek, but the concept is you're going to be rolling and re-rolling and re-rolling and assigning these dice to various aspects of your ship. And when you've got all of them assigned, you get to yell and slam down on the big button that's provided for you. Fire! Just kidding. I don't think there's actually any button, but that would actually be kind of cool thematically speaking, right? And then you go on to the tactical phase where those dice that you've allocated, then you get to choose the order in which and how you're going to be using them to fire torpedoes, to use them as your shields, and that sort of aspect of things. So this is by far and away the one I am personally most excited for. But you've got to price it right. It's got to be the right incentive to get it. It's got to have all of those elements, because otherwise it's going to be like Dice Throne for me right now, where I'm just going, okay, maybe I'll pick it up at retail. I don't really, I'm not super interested in it from that side of things, but it's doing something different. Again, using themes and dice chucking. This guy loves chucking dice to have some fun. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to offer. This one is actually launching on the 8th, so check it out when it does. Then we also have launching on the 9th. One is called Heroes of the Shire. This one is going to have like turn-based combat, 20 characters, more of like an RPG-esque in a box. You have arena and scenario mode, so you've got a little bit of variability there. Lots of classes, lots of abilities, lots of weapons, lots of resources that you're going to be trying to manage. I kind of like the idea of this. This is probably the second most Liege game of the week, and it's going to be really interesting to see, again, what the price point is. And you can see they've got different boxes here. And so, again, how expensive is it going to be to get all of these boxes? Dice chucking, enemy defeating, scenario-based campaigns where you can have up to a 3 or 4 hour campaign where you have 3 epic bosses you're going to be going up against these mobs of villains and enemies along the way that you're going to have to defeat while you're upgrading your character. Now, the concept of this is kind of cool, but I have no idea how this is actually going to work. I mean, they even go on the page here, a saved game sheet. So if you can't do it all at once, and there's going to be themed scenarios, whatever themed means. Tile placement, role-playing, cooperative. I mean, it's hitting all cylinders from the word side of things, but again, I need to see more info because there's very little info actually on the Board Game Geek page, but it's going to be really interesting when it launches on the 9th. Next up is, I'm assuming I'm going to pronounce this one wrong, so I'm just going to go for it, Nuuk. It's probably something like Nuuk. But anyway, this is actually a printed version of a previous print and play. 1 to 2 player deck construction, deck management, press your luck style of games where you're flipping over these cards, building your village, trying to mitigate and manage resources as you go along. It's a pocket-sized game. You're going to be trying to potentially balance getting resources, getting skills that are going to help you, or even prevent penalties at the end game, and trying to manage things until the very end, and then getting your final score. Again, as a solo game, I think you really should probably be checking this one out, because as a printed version of this with a relatively good score, even though there's relatively low amount on Board Game Geek, you should check it out because, I mean, 1 rating, right? But it looks interesting. I don't know many games that are featuring Greenland, so if Greenland is your ilk, check it out when it launches on the 9th. Next up, we have Hamlet, the building game, also launching on the 9th. You might know Mighty Boards, who is putting this game out, from other games like Excavation Earth, which was on Kickstarter earlier this year, as well as Vengeance, as well as Posthuman. So this is their latest game where you are, well, as it says, village building, right? Now it's interesting because this is tile placement, pick up and deliver, where you are trying to, at the end of the game, the church is built, and whoever the church is built, whoever has the most construction and the most points from that side of things wins. And when I initially looked at the description, I was like, well, doesn't this just sound like a different version of Tiny Towns? No, because you're going to be traveling or traversing across these hexes and these tiles to bring resources to places where you need to build them, unlike Tiny Towns where you're just physically just building, right? Or, you know, getting the resources in the right area combination. So it's completely different from that side of things, even though the concept is very similar. It's very interesting to see what people can do nowadays with, you know, same concepts, different minds, right? And so this one looks intriguing. It looks a little bit too thinky for me. That was the problem with Tiny Towns. It just didn't click. I like the idea of Tiny Towns. It just wasn't as fun as I wanted it to be. It was a great game. It's a very solid game. I would, you know, highly recommend it for spatial, abstract type point building in that sense. But it just wasn't like a game where I went, oh yeah, Tiny Towns. That was a lot of fun that we played that. I was like, Tiny Towns, yeah, that was a good game. So will Hamlet be able to, add another layer to that? And definitely with the pick up and deliver, it makes it different. And I think that was the big criticism of Tiny Towns, right? You didn't have control of what other people were doing, and they could just randomly assign you stuff that you just didn't want in the first place, and it was mitigating that. But this is going to be different. It's going to be interesting. I know a couple of you have mentioned in the comments that you're excited about it, so we'll see what happens when it launches on the 9th. Also launching on the 9th is the Hand of Destiny. I talked about this. I thought it was actually supposed to launch last month. It got delayed, it looks like. And so what we're going to be doing is on the 9th, there is this solo game. And it's basically, you can say it actually, you know, in your hand, you can play it where your deck is your life and you are going through your deck and trying to use the cards that you are flipping over and being given as resources, as weapons, as ways to defeat monsters in order to survive. You're playing these cards as efficiently as you can in order to upgrade and get more abilities and get stronger and defeat the monsters. And again, there's not a whole lot of other information from that side of things, but as a solo game as well, I think you have to be able to give this one a heavy look because, I mean, the aesthetic is kind of cool and it's kind of a cool concept. So can they execute it? Will we see when it launches on the 9th? Now, also launching on the 9th is Honey Buzz, the worker placement, tile placement, hex-based resource management style game. And they are launching a new expansion, which is actually a sort of a 5-in-1, if you will. 5 different modules that can be used with the base game in the first place, which is a very interesting concept. And on the Board Game Geek page, they give information about each of the 5 different modules. I won't link to that, but you know what? I'll just pull it up for you so I don't have to guess at it and read it and whatever. So Fall Flavors is the name of the expansion. And thematically speaking, fruit, leaves, nectar, Harvest Festival, and Sweetwater Sunset. All of them adding different elements, including different track board, different ways to earn money, different ways to use your workers in terms of retiring them, and how you want that to affect things. So again, the question just is, I mean, do you need more of it? Is it going to add a significant amount that you're going to be happy with? Is more of a good thing a good thing? And can you use as many of them as you want? I don't see a lot of information here in terms of how many. You know, like it's sort of like, as I mentioned in my other video, do you want to play Terraforming Mars with all the modules at once? Do you want to play Everdell with all of the expansions at once? Do you want to play Honey Buzz with all 5 modules at once? Or is it going to be like Splendor, where, you know, you pick the one module that you like, or you pick just the one expansion with Terraforming Mars and you say, this is the way we like to play and we like to play it this way, and that's it. And so if that's the case, well, then getting all 5 isn't necessarily the best deal. But if you like 1 or 2 of them and you can do that, and this is really one of your favorite games, well, then it might be worth picking up. Definitely check it out if you were interested in the base game originally. So this is just going to be adding more of it. So there you go, launching on the 9th from Elf Creek Games. Now this is the other biggest one of the week. And again, still a little bit outside of my comfort zone because there is more worker placement, but this is Resurgence. And it is resurging some, I don't know, I can't think of any clever puns. But what do you need to know about it? Euro style, bag building, hidden worker placement type of game. Now, does that sort of pique your interest? Because when was the last time you saw hidden worker placement, right? Have you ever seen hidden worker placement? It should be very interesting. What else do you need to know? It's this post-apocalyptic, I tried to say that like 3 times. It took me like 4 takes to actually get that correct. Setting where you're just trying to survive. You are a hero leading a small band of survivors trying to get resources in this brutal climate, brutal, mutant, filled, infested lands, and trying to be the best group of survivors and outlast the other ones that you're going up against. The heroes are all asymmetric, as you can see here. You can see a little bit of what they each do and how they are going to vary. And the question is just going to be, again, what does this actually look like? What does this entail? Some of the early vibe around social media was that it was pretty good and people were really impressed by it because there was some play at some of the conventions like Gen Con or Origins, I think. But I have no idea. Because this is also, like I said, a worker placement game. And again, how does this compare when you're using mechanisms like bag building and hidden worker placement so that the other people can't see what blueprints or what secret objectives you're actually trying to fulfill in the first place? But with Weather Machine and Hegemony, I think this is the third of the big three this week. And that's why I say this week is sort of flown under the radar. But this week could be a very big week on the heavier side of things if you like this style of game. But again, like I said with Hegemony, are these going to steal from each other? Are the people going to have to choose one or two of these instead of all three because they're launching so close together? That would be the biggest concern if I was one of these campaigns. I mean, probably not Weather Machine because it's probably the biggest one of them all, but you know what I'm saying from a consumer side of things at least. So it'd be really interesting to see when this launches on the 10th, how it compares and where it falls in terms of funding and how interested people are in it. So there you go. Now we also have the relaunch of Gartenbau with this flower-based themed game with wooden components that previously did not fund about a month ago, and they are relaunching it with changes, right? You are drafting these tiles into your tableau. You're going to be taking them from this center board and allocating them, you know, wherever you need. They say that they're overhauling things so that hopefully they don't fail a third time. And so again, the aesthetic is there. It's sort of a set collection-esque, tableau building-esque, point management style game, if you will. And it was expensive for what it was. I think the deluxe pledge was something like 90 some bucks before shipping, because there were a lot of wooden components, and you know, people are split on that side of things now. You're drafting, as you can see from this circular tableau, and there's enough information out there that with these two other campaigns and enough other reviewers and previewers out there that there should be no mystery about what the game actually entails. But is it going to be incentive-wise enough to get people to back it around this time compared to previous times? We've seen a lot of stuff cancel that's sort of been in the middle right now lately. And will Gartenbau be able to break the curse of the 2 times in a row? Well, we'll see when it launches on the 9th of how it does comparatively to the prior campaigns. So there you go. Next up, we have Hexaquest on the 10th. I have no idea what this means, but they're calling it the strategic trivia game. So you're going to be allowed to essentially bet or mitigate some of the luck and the choices that you're making, so you're not just totally randomly getting a trivia question that's outside of your depth. Now you can see that there are 6 different categories that you're going to be choosing from, and they give a little bit of a picture here in terms of how you're going to be actually playing, and you're going to be putting these randomly out, taking your turns on the hex grid, answering questions and scoring points based, I think, maybe on where you are on the grid. I don't know, it's an interesting concept. Is there really room for something like this? Are people going to be interested in something like this as a trivia game? I have no idea, but it's going to be launching on the 10th, so if you're interested, check it out. Now, last up, we have Exploration Warzone, which is also launching on the 11th, which is a very interesting situation because it's probably the lowest boarded game I've seen rated on Board Game Geek that is launching a crowdfunding campaign. People just did not like it for some reason, and it's got like a 3.6 rating right now, which is kind of crazy, and I don't really know what to make of that, but I don't know, take it for what it is, I guess. They compare it to a little bit of Paper, Scissors, Rock, in the sense that you have these different ships and you're going to be going through and you're going to be trying to battle each other. I mean, the concept and the rules are right here on Board Game Geek. You have these hexes, you lay a bunch of them out. You're going to be using them to spend resources, to do actions, to buy relics, and to get bonuses based on what's on there in the first place. First one to defeat all the enemies, 15 points or 2 relics is the winner. And you're basically playing these effects, attack, steal, or dodge. And they've got like the paper, scissors, rock sort of thing right there. So, and it says right there, it acts just like that. So if you win, you get a victory point, and the opponent doesn't get to do their effect. It goes through some of the hexes here, but that's basically the gist of it. It's only 2 pages, so there you go. That's Exploration Warzone. Check it out. That's it. That's the upcoming for next week. Check it out if you're interested. Like I said, 3-4-ish games that could really kind of make waves, depending on what actually happens out there and how people feel about things. But are people also going to be a little bit burnt out from all these other big campaigns like Lords of Ragnarok, like Too Many Bones Unbreakable, like Skyrim? Or just all the other stuff, the fatigue of what's kind of already come in the last month or two, even prior to that, with some of the other campaign games and the miniature games? I have no idea. I could see things with any of these games breaking easy 6 figures. I could see a couple of them breaking 7 figures. I could see a lot of them sitting in the low 5 figures even. So I don't know. It's really kind of a very intriguing time when you see these games even before they launch and you're trying to guess sort of where they're going. Maybe that's a new feature that I should do on the video. Like, we'll put the Liege over under, you know, like I'm going to guess this one gets 1.2 million. Are you going to go over or under on that one? And we can kind of compare and kind of see. Or, you know what, I think it's just going to get X amount and we'll see how far I am off and I'll write down my predictions and I'll show them to you at the end of the campaign. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. It's just something different, right? Everybody else does all the usual stuff. Liege is throwing in some gambling in his videos. What? Just kidding. Just kidding. A little bit. Sort of, unless you like it. I don't know. Whatever. Like I said, bracket video, hopefully sometime at the beginning of the week so you can see some of the matchups, and I can tell you the first one that you guys can vote on and let me know what you think of. And then I got a couple games. I got to get stuff to the table. I have a couple preview videos, impression videos for Glory, the deck builder battling game that's on Kickstarter right now. I just got a copy of Megapulse. I actually also have another cool dexterity game that is going to be coming out in the near future on Kickstarter or crowdfunding. I'm not sure the exact timing. Floating Floors, which is a really cool concept with ninjas and moving around pieces. Anyway, you can look it up or you can wait to see what comes out of it. So a little bit of everything there. So, and a few other surprises thrown along the way. There you go. That's the video. That's what's shaking. So let me know what you think. What am I doing right now TV-wise? I'm binging Doctor Who. I am just straight into it. I'm binging the most recent season, I think, season 13, maybe 12. I forget, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just not really that impressed. It's not so much the female doctor. It's just that I don't think the writing is nearly as good as previous seasons. The plots aren't nearly as put together. They seem a little bit straightforward. They seem a little bit samey. They don't really give me the variability, and the special effects are a little bit of a letdown lately too. So it just has not been appealing from that side of things. I finished Titans season 2, and if I wouldn't have accidentally spoiled the beginning of season 3 for myself, I probably would be binging that already as well. And I'm trying to find some other Nordic Noir to sort of catch my eye on because nothing else out is new and interesting. And a couple of the K-dramas I started really weren't that interesting either. I don't know. Just haven't anything else that's really super awesome from that side of things. A lot of the mainstream cable stuff, you know, the CSI Las Vegas reboot really isn't that interesting to me. And a lot of the other stuff I just haven't finished. I need to finish, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I need to do that. I need to catch up on the latest Archer season. You know, it's things like that I'm just kind of like putting off. Like Bob's Burgers. I love that show, but, you know, you got to be in the right mood for it too. So, I don't know. A little bit of everything. Nothing movie-wise has really been appealing lately. I just haven't really caught anything up on that side of things. I'd rather watch shows that are serials, you know, over time. So, that's it. That's all I got. That's the video. That's the roundup. That's upcoming. That's the TV. All in one. Stay classy. Let me know what you think. Let me know where your money's going to fall. Is it going to fall anywhere? Or is it just going to kind of fall between the cracks and not get caught by any of these? Thanks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you around. No boxes were hurt in the making of this video.